Let us not forget everything that happens. It's by the will of Allah. Holy will. It's time to unite and stand, and we will be the best amongst men. It's not time to be extreme or duty unthinkable, but to stand together as one. Tune into Sunnah followers, streaming every day, various platforms. Trust me, you'll find a way. Sunnah followers. Open your eyes and look around. Open your eyes. Do you see the very things that you read about coming true? Don't you realize the moments are near? Correct yourself in your affairs. He has made it crystal clear. These are the signs of the time. Assalamu alaikum. Sunnah followers, new class, stay tuned. Signs of the times.
Inna alhamdulillah, wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I want to welcome everybody to our new series entitled The Signs of the Last Hour. And the reason why I'm doing this series is because, first of all, it was requested by a few of the brothers. I have a lot of new shahadas here who are new to learning about Islam. And a lot of the young brothers have asked me if I can detail the signs of the last hour because of what's going on in different parts of the world. You know, a lot of what's happening, in fact, everything that's happening in the world today, you know, our Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, forewarned us of. Something that we have to understand as Muslims is there's always consequences. You know, whenever we deviate away from understanding what the purpose of our existence is, it always comes with consequences. You know, Allah has shown us that, you know, in different verses of the Quran with the people that came before us. This is why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us to ponder the Quran, because there's so much that we can learn from the people, the nations that came before us. And one of the things that we do learn from these people, from these nations, is that there's always consequences. Always consequences. And this is something that many Muslims today have forgotten, because unfortunately, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you know, each generation of Muslims will become further and further and further away from the truth than the previous generation, to the point that when the last hour does come, whoever is living on earth at that time will be kafir, even though they will all profess that Islam is their religion. In reality, none of them will be believers. Okay, so you know, this is why I'm doing this series, so we can realize that everything that's happening to us, first of all, it's happening because Allah willed it. Allah willed it. Everything good and everything evil that happens because Allah wanted it to happen. And we have to also understand that Allah is in control. Man is not in control of his destiny. Man is not in control of anything. Allah is the one who is in control. So, and once we look at the signs of the last hour and ponder them, when we see them occurring around us in our everyday lives, if we are men and women who truly believe in Allah, If we are men and women who truly fear him, it'll be a wake-up call for us. It'll cause us to reflect upon ourselves. It will cause us to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, am I a cause of what's happening? Okay. Did I help create this? And this is something that I want all of you to think about as I indulge in this series. And just so you guys know, I will be using PowerPoint like I always do, because everything that I am teaching you, everything that I am saying about the signs, about this religion, period, are based on what Allah said, what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and the understanding of everything that I will present to you is not the understanding of anyone of today. It's not the understanding of the four Imams either. It's not even the understanding of Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn Qayyim. Everything that I present to you in this series, in this class, is based on the understanding that those original companions had. And I say originals. I'm not talking about the second generation. I am not even talking about the third. You won't hear me mentioning Al-Hasan al-Basri. You will hear me mentioning mostly Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, and Aisha radiallahu anha. May Allah bless all these companions. And I'll try to limit the Arabic too, because I have a lot of people here listening that are new to Islam. I also have people listening that are old to Islam. But one of the things that I've discovered as a daya is that oftentimes Muslims in the West get caught up in Arabic. They don't understand that Arabic is a language. It's not a religion. And they think throwing out Arabic terms means something. But if I were to ask them to tell me what those Arabic terms mean, they can't. They don't know what Assalamu alaikum means. They think that means, that Islam. They think Islam itself means peace when it doesn't. Islam has nothing, does not mean peace. Okay. So my lecture will be in English, like all my lectures are basically, Plus, I don't speak Arabic fluently anyway. And one thing I learned as a daya, in fact, I learned it as a child from my mother and my stepfather. Never, ever, ever. And I want all my young Muslim girls to take notes of this. Sabrina, Tahira, Shamsa's kids, all my babies, Maisha's, Shamika's kids, all my babies. I want y'all to write this down. Never, ever, ever let the people see you sweat. What does that mean? Don't show your weaknesses when you're dealing with people. Only show them your strengths. Language is not my strength. Not Arabic language. English language is my strength. I have a degree in it. But since I don't speak Arabic fluently, I'm not going to give you reason to try to take puck shots at me. So I'm speaking in the language that I speak, English, which is what you all speak, which is what you all understand. So never try to, I'm saying that to let the kids know, don't try to play that game of impressing people. This is also one of the signs of the last hour too. We want to try to impress people. So a lot of Muslims today will throw around Arabic terms and to try to impress someone. But you can't impress me, because if you throw an Arabic term at me, I'm going to ask you, what does it mean? And even though I don't speak Arabic fluently, I know the Arabic language enough of the language that I need to know to be a daya. And I'm going to call you out on what you say. I'm going to ask you to give me the meaning of it in English. And oftentimes people can't. So don't try to throw out Arabic terms, to impress people. Like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if a person truly understands something, they'll be able to explain it in detail. Explain it in detail in the language that you speak. If you can't break it down in detail in the language that you speak, then that means you don't have no understanding of what you're talking about. So don't fall into that trap. Don't be impressed by people who do that. I was watching one of the sisters here earlier today, before I got upset about Facebook. One of the sisters earlier today sent me a video of something that went on in her masjid, some gathering they had for the kids. And this one child that was 6 years old stood up to give his presentation, and he began with the khutbah the khutbah that the imams recite before they give their lectures. And everybody stood up and started clapping. And subhanallah, I was like, okay, well, what is he talking about? Then he began his presentation and couldn't say much of anything. And I'm like, you guys, he was supposed to have been speaking about the virtues of praying, why we pray. He couldn't say anything about the prayer. But you guys gave him a standing ovation because he threw out this Arabic statement, this speech that he memorized. He said the whole speech too. I mean, come on, guys. Don't be that gullible. Don't be that gullible. That little 6-year-old kid should have been able to do what the 6-year-old kids in my website do. He should have been able to tell you what the pillars of the prayer are. If I was to ask Yusuf, if I was to ask Shuaib, these are my 6 and 7-year-old kids here, to give me the pillars of the prayer, they can tell you all the pillars of the prayer. They can also tell you the sunnahs of the prayer. This kid forgot everything. He just stood there after they gave him a standing ovation, and he just, we pray because Allah say we have to pray. I forgot everything else. Don't be gullible. All right, so I'm going to begin my lecture today. The last time we met for this class, which was Wednesday, we talked about how in order to understand the signs of the last hour, you have to first believe that the last hour will indeed happen. Believe it or not, there are groups of Muslims, people that call themselves Muslims today. They claim that they don't believe in the hadiths. They only believe in the Quran, but they don't believe in the hadiths. The simple fact that they don't believe in the hadiths means that they don't believe Muhammad Dur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that means you ain't no Muslim. Sorry. Bye-bye. But because they don't believe in the hadiths, they'll tell you that they don't believe in these signs of the last hour either. They'll say unless it's mentioned in the Quran, it doesn't exist. So that's why last week we talked about how belief in the signs of the last hour is a component of faith. And today what I'm going to do is detail the difference between the signs, and also something I've been telling you guys for the past, since Ramadan. There's always cause and effect. Islam is not just a religion, but it's also a beautiful way of life. Not only does Allah tell us what to do and how to do it, but he also tells us what will happen if we don't. And then he goes even further and tells us what to do when he sends his punishment. And you're going to see that today in my lecture today. I'm going to talk about the signs of the last hour as they were presented to us by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Remember, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said every prophet that Allah sent And every messenger that Allah sent, they knew. Allah told them about the signs, and they shared this with their people. But no prophet went into as much detail as our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. The prophet Muhammad told us what was going to happen from beginning to end, the major, the minor. Not only did he tell us what was going to happen, but he explained why these things would happen, how we brought it on ourselves because we had fallen, will have fallen short in our purpose. And not only did he tell us why it would happen and what caused it, but he also told us what to do. So right now, you know, a lot of the Muslims, we see all of the signs have already appeared that's leading up to the greater. The next sign, I can tell you as a daya, the next sign that we're waiting for that hasn't happened yet is the war against Islam, but it's in the process. What's going on in the world today in the Middle East and Gaza, what's going on in Africa, because it's not just Gaza. Y'all better wake up. It's going on in the Muslim lands. Okay, this is all the prerequisite, the beginning of what's going to lead to the United Nations signing an agreement to declare war against all Muslim nations and all Muslims on earth. That's the next sign that's going to happen. Not only did the prophet tell us it would happen and why, but what to do. What's going on right now in Gaza? What's going on right now in all of Africa? There are certain things we're supposed to be doing. And it ain't protesting. Protesting. You're just protesting against the Qadr of Allah. I'm going to be honest. You're protesting against Allah. This war ain't stopping. This is the beginning. You're protesting against the Qadr of Allah. Okay? So let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen for tonight's discussion. And let me take everything down. And for the kids, I know the kids are watching too. You know, make sure that you guys have me on the big screen TV for the children. Because my Sunnah follower kids are watching and they love to watch me on the TV because they like to see the stuff, you know, move around. The PowerPoints. I still haven't seen me on TV yet, guys. The kids tell me, Sister Layla, you need to watch yourself on TV. I still haven't, you know, I can't watch TV and stream at the same time. I said I'm gonna buy next what's that, Black Friday? The next Black Friday, inshallah, I'm gonna buy a TV for my bedroom, for my office, so I can talk and watch myself at the same time. Okay, but let me put this down so the kids can see the signs on the big screen. And by the way, channel Sunnah followers, one of the sisters here is typing, what's the channel? Yeah, just go to YouTube. Go to your YouTube app on your television. Go to your YouTube app and type lailanasheeba. That's even easier. You type lailanasheeba, my live will pop up. You will see me right now and just click on it. Or you can type Sunnah followers, all one word, Sunnah followers online, and you will see me dressed like this. Look at my outfit for today, because I got a lot of videos, but this is the live. You will see me talking live. You'll hear the echo. So yeah, for the new sisters, yeah, just use you can do it on your phone too, but for the children, put them on the big screen. They like to watch me on the 80-inch. I got a 65-inch TV and I like to watch stuff on there too. Yeah. And just, go to the YouTube app, click on the YouTube and then type my name, lailanasheeba. Bam, there I am. You click on the one that says live. Yeah, it'll say live. Okay, so let me put this up, the PowerPoint up, so you guys can see. Let me start with my I'll move that out of the way. This is my PowerPoint for the Zoom room. Yeah. Okay, Zoom people first. And now I'm coming to you guys. Okay, the big screen TV people. Here we go. Again, inshallah, let me show you definition. Here it is. Bam. Let me go to here. Okay, it should be on your screen. And let me make it larger. All right. Can you see it on the TV now for the new sister? Did you find the channel? Just type channel Sunnahfollowers or lailanasheeba. You're going to see some Indian lady named Layla too. I don't know what she's about, but lailanasheeba. Yeah, and there, that's the channel. You see it? I'm watching her type here. You got it? Mashallah. She said, oh, yes, it's a red. Yeah, it's in red. It says live. That's how you know I'm live. Yep, there it is. Put it on for the kids. They'll love it. Okay, so I'm making this bigger screen, inshallah, so everyone can see on their television. So this is my second lecture on the signs of the last hour. And today what I'm going to do is speak about, there's two Arabic words that are used when people speak about the signs. Ashraat and Ayaat. Okay? Ashraat and Ayaat. We're going to speak about both of them. They mean two different things. Two different things. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Yeah, that's what the kids like. They like to see that. Okay, Allah says in the Quran, in the interpretation of the meaning, do they then await something other than the hour that it should come upon them suddenly? But some of its portents, meaning some of its indications or some of its signs, have already come. Ponder this verse of the Quran. Here Allah is letting us know in this verse alone that some of the indications of the last hour are already here. And not only are some of its indications here, but also some of the signs are here too. So even though Allah has concealed the knowledge from us as to when the last hour will come, He has told us that there are some indicators and there are some signs that tell us it's close at hand. Now, write it down. When Allah refers to the indicators, that's where that term Ashraat comes from. Okay? Ashraat, the term sharat means a sign. Ashraat refers to the portents or the signs of the last hour. So even though only Allah knows when the last hour will come, we can look around us and see the signs. But like I talked about earlier today in my 6 o'clock class, how can you recognize the signs? How can you get to know the indicators unless you learn them correctly? You learn about them. Everything is knowledge. And that's what this series is about. I'm going to give you the authentic knowledge that was shared with us from our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as to what those indicators and signs are. And I'm going to give you the understanding that those companions had about the signs and indicators. Okay? So, Ashra refers to the signs that will immediately be followed by the onset or the beginning of the hour. And some of the scholars gave these portents the name of signs. So that's what Ashraat refers to. Ayat is a different Arabic word, and it means indicators that point to something. Some indicators that point to something, such as the markers that are set up in the desert to show where the road is, or the signs that are erected on the shoreline to guide a ship, or the signposts that we put near towns and cities to show travelers how close we are. So ayat points towards something, whereas Ashraat are the signs of something. So that's the difference between those two Arabic terms that you may hear some of the Arabic speaking brothers use. The ayat are the signs of the hour that either show that it's close or show that it's actually happening. Y'all got that? The ayat are the signs that either show that it's close or happening. For example, ayat, an example, men will imitate women and women will imitate men. LGBTQ, this is an ayat. This is a sign that shows that the last hour is close. It's close to happening because the men are imitating the women. The women are imitating the men. Homosexuality is rampant. Also, when we talk about the Antichrist, or we talk about the arrival of Jesus, an ayat can be something that shows that it's close. So like when the Antichrist comes, or when Jesus alayhi salam comes, we'll know that it's close. Whoever's living on earth at that time will know, oh my God, the last hour is close, because here's the Antichrist, the Gog and the Magog. When if you live on earth at that time, you will say it's close. Or like I can say right now, the war against Islam. What's happening in Gaza and what's happening in Africa. The Zionists have declared war already against the Muslims. It's not just Gaza. It's also the Muslims and the Muslim countries in Africa too that have been under attack, that have been genocided for decades. So we can look at those ayat and say that the last hour is close. Homosexuality, drugs, alcohol, incurable diseases, the war against Islam. These are all ayat, which are signs that it's close. Does everybody understand that? And I'm trying to break this down in plain, simple English. One of the reasons why the young brothers asked me to do this lecture, this series, is because they said no one can break it down in English like me. The Arabic brothers, they use too much Arabic. So they asked me to break it down like I'm doing. So that's what ayat refers to. When you hear Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, and by the way, Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid has a wonderful series that he does too on the signs of the last hour. He has a book that he's written about how Jerusalem is the arena of everything. When you hear him refer to the ayat, this is for the young brothers. When y'all hear him refer to ayat, he's talking about the signs that are here that signify how close we are to it. So that's what Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid means when he refuses that term ayat. So I put this for the young brothers who asked me to do that series, and I hope I've made it clear for you. And now a lot of people may ask the question, Sister Layla, and this is the question that some of the young brothers have asked me. They said, Sister Layla, what are the benefits of learning about the signs of the last hour? Is there any benefits in this at all? Well, Some people say it would be better if you concern yourself with the politics of the world, the problems of the world, instead of wasting time investigating what will happen in the future. Well, this is the response that I would give. This is the response that Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid has given. Okay? We don't have any choice but to look at what's happening, because guess what? Whatever is going to happen in the future has already listed to happen by Allah. So whether we study it or ignore it, it's going to happen anyway. But why do we study these matters? Because it can help us in our growth towards Allah. Remember, it's all about bettering our relationship with Allah. When we look at the ayat, or we look at the signs that are already happening around us, it's going to cause you to want to do self-reflection. It's going to cause you to ask yourself, am I a cause of this? Because nothing happens without cause. Our Lord is a just Lord. And again, guys, believing in the unseen is also something that the believers do. This is what differentiates us from the hypocrites. So even though, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I believe everything that Allah said that would happen. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. Aleph Lam Mim. This is the book of which there is no doubt. It is a guidance to those who are righteous and those who fear Allah and those who love Allah, those who believe in the unseen and perform their prayers, those who spend out of what we have provided for them. So here Allah is telling us that belief in the unseen is the first characteristic which he praises those of us who are righteous for. Now, these brothers that you other people are hanging out with who claim that they don't believe in the hadiths, so they don't believe in the signs, they don't believe in the ayat about the last hour, these are not righteous men. And you young brothers shouldn't even be in their company. Remember, Allah tells us in the Quran, do not sit in the company of those who do wrong. Do not sit in the company of those who don't believe. So you brothers need to stop hanging out with those people who are causing you to question your faith. And there's many benefits to studying the signs of the last hour. Like I said, Allah is showing you when you are aware of what's going on and what those signs are. Allah is showing you his anger. Allah is reminding you that the last hour is close. And remember, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the last hour comes to all of us when the angel of death takes your soul. So to remind you of that too. It'll remind you that even if I don't live to see the sun rise from the west or whatever, I don't live to see the Antichrist, subhanallah, my soul will be taken. At any moment, it can be taken. Am I ready for it? Okay? And there are some Muslims that are too preoccupied with matters of the unseen. We have a lot of the Mu'tazilai, the Sufis. They're into mysticism and all of that stuff. So, but again, Islam is a religion of balance. We don't want to be in that group that's too preoccupied, nor do we want to be in the group that's not occupied enough. As Muslims, we don't ignore the words of Allah because the companions didn't do that. The companions are our example of balance. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them everything that would happen from beginning to end. They believed in it. They weren't too preoccupied with it, nor did they take it as a joke. They believed in the last signs, the signs of the last hour, but they participated in jihad. They still fulfilled their obligations to Allah. And when they saw the signs, that made them even brush up more in their struggle towards Allah and for His sake. So now what I'm going to do, guys, is sum up some of the benefits that you can gain from learning the signs of the last hour. And this is also how you respond to those weak-minded people out there who call themselves Muslims, who take this as a matter of play. Okay? First of all, when it comes to the signs of the last hour, I want to remind everybody there's a lot of hadiths out there that speak about it. Many of those hadiths are not authentic. You have to make sure that you are taking your knowledge of this religion from the authenticated sources. Okay? So we have to believe in the hadiths that are authentic about the signs. If they are authentic, then we accept it. We believe it. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. This is the book whereof there is no doubt, and it is a guidance to those who are righteous, who believe in the unseen. This Arabic word here, ghaib, this Arabic word here, ghaib, refers to the unseen. We have to believe in it, but it has to be authenticated. For those of you, I want you to understand, when you go into Google and type anything about Islam, it automatically goes to a website called lislam.org. lislam.org is owned by the Shiites, the 12ers. They got the money on that. They put the money to Google, where any search on Islam goes to them first. The Shiites do not believe and do not accept the Bukhari hadiths, nor do they accept Imam Muslim's hadiths. The Shiites have their own hadiths. So don't take nothing from lislam.org, because whatever you take from lislam.org is not based on anything but what those 12ers came up with. Does everybody understand that? The authentic hadith book, of which there's no question at all, is Sahih Bukhari. If it's from Sahih Bukhari, there's no question about it. And after Sahih Bukhari, it's Sahih Muslim. 85% of the knowledge of Islam can be found in Sahih Bukhari alone. So I'm telling you, as new people who are new to this religion that have not studied the hadith, stick to Bukhari and Muslim. Those are the two books you need. That's all you need right now. 9 times out of 10. And the others of the Sitta, if it's authentic, you'll find it in Bukhari or Muslim. Okay? But stay away from lislam.org. All right? So, Allah tells us in that first verse of the Quran that I mentioned that some of the signs have already come to pass. When Allah sent that verse down, of course, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked about it. And of course, Allah explained which ones had come to pass. And as Muslims, we have all witnessed certain events happening that were told to come to pass. For example, the homosexuality that I mentioned earlier. female singers. That's why you Muslim women can't be singers for pay, for entertainment. Plus that's making us public spectacle of yourself. And we already know that we cannot become public spectacles. All right? The alcohol, the drug problem around the world. And by the way, I don't want you Muslims to get it twisted. The problem with drugs is not just limited to America. Do you guys know they have a drug problem in Saudi Arabia? In the United Arab Emirates, the drug and alcohol problem is out of control. So the problem with alcohol and drugs is worldwide, not just limited to the West. So we are witnessing all of that. The same-sex marriages. Well, guess what? The companions witnessed things too. For example, they witnessed the victory of the Romans over the Persians. That's also one of the signs of the last hour. Allah says that in the Quran, that the Romans would win over the Persians. And when it happened, the companions were like, wow, Allah said this would happen. And then the companions witnessed the victory of the Muslims over the Romans and the Persians. They couldn't believe that that would ever happen when the Prophet was alive. But when it happened during the Caliphate of Umar, subhanallah, the Muslims were like, wow, Allah said this would happen. This sign has already occurred. We have defeated the Romans. We have defeated the Persians, the two superpowers of the world. Okay? So many of the signs, as Allah said in that first verse I gave to you guys, have already happened. They also saw the split of this nation. That's another one of the minor signs. These are all minor signs. The minor signs have already occurred. And I'm going to go into detail about these signs later. But for today, I'm going to just give you examples of them. You know, the Roman and Persians victories and defeats. Those were minor signs. Also, another one of the minor signs that the Prophet mentioned was how this nation would split and divide. The companions didn't understand that. They said, what do you mean? He said, my nation, we Muslims will divide. We will kill each other. When they saw it happen, they were scared. And of course, when did this happen? This happened during the Caliphate of Uthman. May Allah be pleased with him. That's when the Muslims, the Kharijites, the Muslims divided. They split. They killed Uthman. Uthman was not killed by anyone but the Muslims. Okay? Some of the sons of the original companions took part in that. They allowed the Kharijites to convince them to take part in that. And when that happened, that scared them. They said, oh my God, is the last hour coming? Because we've split. Okay? So similar things have happened in every era. Like I said, we witnessed the homosexuality. We're witnessing the females dressed but naked. The companions didn't know what it meant for a woman to be dressed but still naked. Look at the Cardi B movement. Look at the Nicki Minaj movement. Look at the Beyonce. If a woman doesn't make herself naked publicly, if a woman doesn't make herself a spectacle, she's nothing. So similar things have happened in every era to prove that the time is near and that Allah does indeed speak the truth. Okay? So to say that you don't believe in the signs, that's a testament to your disbelief. Because belief in all of these signs, this is one of the fundaments of Islam. Does everybody understand that? And when we do believe in all these signs, they will strengthen our faith. They will strengthen our connection with about death. That will remind us of the day of judgment, that we all will have to answer for the choices we've made in this world. Okay? So that's one of the benefits of learning about the signs. It will strengthen your belief in Allah and in the day of judgment. And again, Allah is merciful. Allah sent the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to warn us as to what is good and what is evil, to warn us of the ayat or the signs that may be indicative that the last hour is near. And our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed his companions the best way to respond to these events. And this is what I always tell you guys: cause and effect. Not only did Allah tell us what those signs are, but what we should do should we live to see them. Did he mention protests? Did he mention boycott? That's what I'm going to go over right now. I'm going to go over some of the ways that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to respond to the events when they happen, when you live to see them. And we're going to start with what happened during the time of the companions and what the Prophet told them to do should they live to see that. We have this wonderful, authentic hadith narrated by Amir ibn al-As. For those of you who don't know, Amir ibn al-As became the governor over Egypt. Yeah. During the caliphate of Umar, radiallahu anha. Umar was the one that spread Islam across the ocean into North Africa. Amir ibn al-As became the governor over Egypt. You guys want to know why a lot of Egyptians have the name Said? Muhammad Said Atli, Dr. Asim Said Abul Mati, Sheikh Saud Said Hassanin, Layla Saida Nasheeba. Okay, when Islam spread through North Africa to Egypt, Amir ibn al-As became the governor over Egypt. And when they put that name Said in their name, that's how you could trace back then which of the Egyptians, called the Egyptians were Copts. They were Copts. But which ones married the companions and the Prophet's family, and their roots go back to Medina? Amir ibn al-As, subhanallah, he had a lot of wives. Okay? There's a lot of Said. There's a lot of Saida in Egypt whose roots trace back to the family of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, listen to Amir ibn al-As. He said, we were with the Prophet on a journey, and we stopped at a place. Some of us began to build tents. Others began to compete with one another in shooting arrows. And others began to graze their animals. When an announcer of the Prophet came and announced to the people, he said, everyone gather together so we can pray. So we gathered around the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's when the Prophet told us, he said, it was the duty of every prophet before me to guide his people to what he knew was good for them and warn them against what he knew was bad for them. However, this nation, my nation, will have its days of peace and security at the beginning of it. And in the last phase of my nation's existence, My nation will be afflicted with calamities and things that are disagreeable to you. He said in that phase of the Ummah, there will be tremendous calamities, tremendous trials, one after the other, each one making the previous one pale into insignificance. When afflicted with a trial, the believer will say, oh my God, this is going to bring about my destruction. This is going to bring about my death. That's how bad it is. But when the trial is over, he will be afflicted with another one. And he will say, oh my God, this is worse than what happened to me before. The prophet said, whoever wishes to be delivered from the hellfire and enter paradise should die with belief in Allah and belief in the last day in his heart. And he should treat the people as he wishes to be treated by them. Whoever swears allegiance to a leader and gives him the pledge of his hand and the sincerity of his heart should obey him to the best of his ability. And if another person comes forward claiming to be a leader, disputing the one you pledged to authority, you should kill him. This hadith is authentic. It's Sahih Muslim. So here you can see an example of the prophet telling us what's going to happen and what to do if you live to see it. By the way, this is all happening. He's telling the companions that the best of our nation is in the beginning of it. The last years will be the worst. We're living in those last years. Allah will send trial after trial, war, famine, drought, murder, terrorism. Each trial that befalls this nation will be worse than the other. We can just look at 9/11. Let's say 9/11, that was a terrible time for the Muslims around the world. It then got worse. It did ISIS. It became worse. Osama bin Laden. Look at all we went through. The reign of Saddam Hussein. When Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, oh my God, that was horrible. Look at what happened to Bosnia. The women were genocided. The women were raped. Look at what's happening in Gaza today. Gaza is worse than Bosnia. Bosnia was terrible. That was genocide. That was genocide. What's happening today in Gaza is worse. What's been happening in Sudan is worse. What's been happening in Nigeria is worse. So here you can see the prophets talking about it. Each calamity will be worse than the other. And the people will think, oh my God, this is it. I'm going to die from this. He tells us what to do. If you live to see this, like we're living to see what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in the Congo, what's happening in Ghana, what's happening in Nigeria, what's happening in Kenya, what's happening in Yemen. How should we react? How should we react? He said we should first reaffirm our belief in Allah. Ask yourself, do I truly believe La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah? Most Muslims today don't know what wala wal bara is. When we declare La ilaha illallah, we're also declaring that our allegiance is to Allah, that our allegiance is to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that our allegiance is to the religion of Islam and all Muslims. Are we showing that today? I mentioned a bunch of countries in Africa that's going through the same thing that Gaza's going through. Oh, yes, the same thing. It's no different. There's Muslims in Sudan living in tents, eating mud. Muslims in the Congo. Muslims in Nigeria. Muslims in Ghana. Muslims in Burundi. They're going through hell, just like Gaza. Is your allegiance to them, or are you only concerned with Gaza? Y'all see that? The prophet is telling us, when you live to see this, ask yourself, do I truly believe la ilaha illallah? Most of you don't know what wala wa bara is. That's part of the testimony of faith. We're pledging allegiance to Allah and to all Muslims, regardless of color, regardless of race, regardless of whether it's Jerusalem or Africa. Are you true to that? No, you're not. You're protesting. I see the flags of Palestine wrapped around you. Where's the flag of the Sudan? Where's the flag of Congo? Where's the flag of Nigeria? Where's the flag of Yemen? Where's the flag? Where's the flag? Burundi. Where's the flag? Senegal. Where's the flag? South Africa, even. Y'all see why them flags are haram? You can't represent them all because the Muslims are being impacted by this all over the world, not just Gaza. The flag of Islam is La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, all Muslims. Our allegiance is to all Muslims, not just Gaza. Do y'all get what I'm saying? So you're living to see the trial. This is the worst. What's happening in Gaza and what's happening in Africa. These are the worst that we've seen so far. They're worse than Bosnia even. So the prophet is telling you, check your faith. Are you truly upon La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah? He also says, treat people the way you want to be treated by them. How many TikTok videos? By the way, I got banned from TikTok. TikTok banned lailanasheeba because the hypocrites didn't want me speaking the truth. Because I was putting out videos like this, shorts like this, speaking the true Islam. The hypocrites got me banned. They said that I was a terrorist, that I was some crazy woman. And of course, the TikTok's owned by Zionists. They banned me, okay? I put out a short where I said I responded to the Muslims because the Muslims on TikTok made videos saying, let the people of Africa eat mud. How many of you have seen those TikTok videos? These are Muslim women and Muslim men, Arabic, my people. But they're not from Egypt. They were Palestinians, American Palestinians. American Palestinians saying, let the people in Africa eat dirt. We're only concerned with Gaza. And the women that made these videos didn't even have hijabs on. The men that made these videos didn't even have beards on. They are non-practicing Muslims who don't live in Gaza, but claim that their allegiance is to them. Is that a nice thing to say? The women and men in Sudan have been oppressed and genocided for decades. So has the Congo. So has Niger. So Niger's a Muslim country like Sudan. So has Nigeria, Burundi, Tanzania. Instead of you sympathizing and empathizing for them, you're going to say, let them eat dirt. They deserve what they're getting because they're from Africa. Your only concern is Gaza? What did the prophet say here? When you live to see those days, treat the people as you wish to be treated by them. Is that how you treat your fellow Muslim brothers and sisters? You're only concerned with Arabs, not black people? Also, the prophet is saying here, whoever, if you live to see that, when you give allegiance to a leader and give him the pledge, don't rebel against him. Look how many Muslims have rebelled, and you're calling your governors kafir. This is the Muslim countries now. I'm going to take it to the Muslim world now. Okay? Even as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in an authentic hadith, what should you do when your rulers are oppressive? Do you rebel against them? Do you fight against them? He said, as long as they are performing the prayers, as long as they are doing that, you do not rebel against them. Look how many Muslims in these Muslim lands have referred to their rulers and leaders as being kafirs and have rebelled against them. Well, this is why Allah has brought the war. This is why Allah has brought all these signs here. Look how many of you have turned in your own rulers and took on other people who claim to be better. Let's take it back to America. Muslims in America. Most of the Muslims in America, you people have contributed to what's happening today, because how many of you went out and voted for Obama? Allah is clear in the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, that the non-believers will never be advocates for us. They will never accept us. They'll never like us. They'll band together and fight against us. The Prophet Muhammad was clear when he said a non-Muslim can never be a ruler over a Muslim. But how many of you egghead American Muslims went and voted for Obama because he's a black man? Your allegiance is to the black man instead of being towards Muslims. The simple fact that his father was Muslim and he apostated, that should have told you that he's an enemy. He's an apostate from Islam. He's a Christian. That's an apostate, even though his father raised him to be a Muslim. You replaced your leadership, your Muslim leadership, with that of a kafir based on color of the skin. Y'all see that? So this is just one example as to how not only does Allah tell us what's going to happen, but he tells us why and what we should be doing. Instead of you Muslims protesting and all this other nonsense y'all doing, you should be checking your faith. You should be learning what La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah means. Strengthening, learning what well better is. Putting aside that racism. Stop choosing kafirs over Muslims. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's how you change. But since you guys are not doing that, this is just the beginning of what's going to lead to the end. Another example, other examples of how this type of advice that the prophet had a great impact in guiding the Muslims include this. For example, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was one day walking, climbing up a mountain. And on that hill, it was him, it was Abu Bakr, It was Umar, Ali, and Uthman. Uthman almost failed. And the Prophet ﷺ said, don't worry, Uthman. I'm giving you good news of paradise, because a calamity is going to befall you worse than this mountain. And you will meet your end as a result of it. But don't worry, Uthman. Paradise will be yours. What was the Prophet talking about? Uthman didn't know. Uthman almost fell off that mountain. But when the people surrounded his house and the people climbed through his window with knives to kill him, that's when he knew. That's when he knew. I'm going to meet my end not because of a mountain, but at the hands of the sons of the men that I helped establish this deen with. But Uthman went proudly, knowing that paradise would be his. So this shows the effect. You know, when Allah sends the ayat, when he sends the indicators, and if you a person that believes in Allah, believes in him, when those indicators manifest before you, you handle yourself with dignity the way Uthman did. Uthman knew he was about to meet his end. He kissed his wife and he thanked her for being a good wife for him. He also thanked all his servants. When he knew that he was going to meet his death that night, he thanked all of his servants for standing by him through the end. And when those men busted through his windows and grabbed him by his beard to cut his throat, he went out with a smile. Subhanallah. That's a believer. Also, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam revealed to Ammar, another companion, that he would be killed by the group that was in the wrong, Ammar didn't know what he's talking about. But when the Muslims divided, after they killed Uthman, and the Muslims divided, the Kharijites called themselves forcing Ali to accept the position of Caliph. And Ammar was killed by a group that was in the wrong. Ammar saw these signs. He saw the ayat, the indicators that the end was near. And Ammar went out with dignity. Ammar never deviated away from the true Islam. He never chose and rose against Ali. He didn't rise against Muawiyah either. Subhanallah. Also, another example of the companions and how they took these signs. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam had a premonition about Abu Dar. Who was Abu Dar? Abu Dar, he was one of the original companions too. He was the one that got into an argument with Bilal, radiallahu anha, and called Bilal the son of a black slave woman. One day the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam had a premonition about Abu Dar. He said, "Oh Abu Dar, the fitna will come. The fitna will come. I can see the city of Medina, the streets are running with blood." He said, "Oh Abu Dar, stay away from the fitna. Do not take sides. Do not fight, even if it means your life is at stake." When this fitna developed after the murder of Uthman and the Kharijites took hold of Medina, the Kharijites tried to get the other original companions to take sides. They tried to get Abu Dar. They tried to get Ibn Abbas. They tried to get the other companions to take sides and join them. Abu Dar left and he went out to the desert. He remembered this premonition of the prophet, and he said, I will live in the desert as a nomad alone. He took his wife, and he and his wife went and lived in the desert alone. Abu Dhar took no part in that division, in the war, the civil war that occurred with the companions. He took no part in it. He obeyed what the prophet said, because the prophet told him what to do. When this happens, don't take sides. He didn't take sides. Neither did Ibn Abbas. Neither did Abu Hurairah. Neither did any of the original companions. They all drew the line. They didn't take sides because they remembered this premonition. And for those of you who know the hadith, you know that Abu Dhar died alone in the desert. Okay? A group of people were traveling, and his wife met them and said, my husband is sick. My husband, she said, I have a feeling he's going to die. Can you stick around so you can help me to bury him? And those group of travelers went into her home, and it was Abu Dhar. Abu Dhar took his last breath, and they buried him. And also the same happened with Hudayfa. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Hudayfa that when the fitna happens, don't take sides. When the fitna happens, stay away from it. And he did too. Like I said, and so did many of the other originals. Also, another sign. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had told the companions that not only will you Muslims defeat the Romans, but you will also defeat the Persians. There will be so much gold that will be uncovered. He said, but don't take anything of it. Don't take anything of it. This came true under the caliphate of Umar radiallahu anhu, when the Muslims defeated the Persians in the battle of the elephants. The ruler of Persia ran away with all his gold. He got caught up in the Euphrates River and he died. The Muslims found him and all this gold, but they remembered this. They didn't take any of it. They let that gold sink down to the bottom, where it probably still is today, in the Euphrates River. So these are all examples of our prophet telling us what to do. Now, these are all minor signs that already happened. Also, he talked about the nature of the Antichrist. He talked about how we can recognize him, because the companions were so afraid of the Antichrist. They even thought that a young boy was the Antichrist, but he wasn't. That boy ended up becoming Muslim. Okay? So the prophet told them, you know, the Antichrist, how he would look. He'll have one eye. He will claim to be Allah himself. He will have arguments. And Allah will allow him to perform a couple of miracles.